You know, have you ever really thought about how a war, a conflict happening thousands and thousands of miles away, could somehow find its way right to your doorstep? It's one of those things that feels abstract, like it's on the news, but it's not here. Well, today we're going to look at how that's just not true anymore.
It all starts with a single event, a military strike way over on the other side of the globe, 6,000 miles away. Seems pretty far, right?
Well, what in the world does that have to do with the price you pay at the pump in Ohio? Or a crippling cyber attack on a company in Michigan? And maybe most importantly, a terror warning that the public never even got? The answer, as it turns out, is everything. In this explainer, we're going to trace those ripples and see how that one distant event came crashing home.
Okay, so the first domino to fall was an operation called Epic Fury. This was the military action that kicked the whole thing off.
So on February 28, 2026, the U.S. and Israeli militaries launched this joint operation. And just look at the scale of it. They fired 850 Tomahawk cruise missiles aimed at Iranian leadership. To put that in perspective, that's the largest number ever used in a single U.S. military operation. This was absolutely massive.
But while all this was going on, what were people thinking back home? Well, a Marist poll taken right around that time shows a pretty clear split. A majority of Americans, 56%, were actually against taking military action, so this wasn't some universally popular decision. The country was really divided on it from the get-go.
And the blowback, it was almost immediate. And the first response wasn't another missile, but something much more strategic. It involved turning a key piece of geography into a weapon.
Iran's countermove was to shut down the Strait of Hormuz. Now, you have to understand, this little waterway is basically the jugular vein for the global economy. About a fifth, 20% of all the world's oil flows through there. Not to mention natural gas and key ingredients for things like fertilizer, which, helps feed the planet. It is absolutely critical.
And the effect was instantaneous. Iran's Revolutionary Guard blockaded the strait. And get this, within 24 hours, oil tanker traffic just stopped. It dropped by an unbelievable 94%. It was like someone just turned off a giant faucet.
So what happens when you do that? Well, the markets, of course, completely freaked out. The price of Brent crude oil, which is a big international standard, just shot through the roof, soaring past $114 a barrel.
And this is where it starts to hit home for everyone. The average price for a gallon of diesel in the U.S. jumped to $5.38. Now, why is that a huge deal? Because basically every single thing you buy gets to the store on a truck, and those trucks run on diesel. So suddenly there's this invisible tax on, well, everything.
But the fight wasn't just happening in the shipping lanes. At the very same time, a second front opened up, a war in the wires, fought entirely in cyberspace.
Check this out. On March 11th, a hacking group with links to Iran called Handala went after Stryker Corp. They're a huge American medical tech company, and this wasn't ransomware, where they asked for money. No, this was a wiper attack. Their only goal was destruction. They remotely wiped 200,000 devices and destroyed 50 terabytes of data. This paralyzed the supply of critical surgical equipment to hospitals all over the world. It was pure, calculated chaos.
And it got even scarier. Federal agencies started putting out warnings that these same hackers were trying to get into the control systems of local water treatment plants across the U.S. So now we're talking about a threat aimed directly at critical civilian infrastructure. From the digital world, the conflict then took its most terrifying turn. It spilled over into the physical world, with individuals, inspired by the war, carrying out attacks right here on American soil. And just look at how fast this all played out. The operation starts on February 28th. The very next day, March 1st, there's a shooting in Austin. Less than 2 weeks later, an attack on a synagogue in Michigan. The retaliation was swift, and it was here. And these were not random. In Austin, the attacker, Ndiaga Dianiji, had been spouting pro-Iranian rhetoric before he opened fire in a busy entertainment district. Then in Michigan, the attacker at the Temple Israel Synagogue, Ayman Ghazali, was apparently motivated by revenge because his brothers, who were with Hezbollah, had been killed in an airstrike. So you have two different attackers, two different cities, but one very clear line connecting them back to the overseas conflict.
And if there was any doubt about the intent, this quote from a video Ghazali sent to his sister right before the attack makes it chillingly clear. He said, "I will enter the synagogue, shoot the people inside, and kill as many of them as I possibly can." The connection was direct and horrifying.
So, with all of this happening, the economic shock, the cyber attacks, the actual terror attacks, it leads to a really crucial question. Where was the official warning to the American people?
The Department of Homeland Security has a system for exactly this kind of situation. It's called the National Terrorism Advisory System, or NTAS. Its whole job is to alert the public when threats are rising. And yet, as this whole crisis was escalating, nothing. No alert was issued. Crickets.
And people were definitely noticing. A Homeland Security publication ran this quote just one day after the Austin shooting, pointing out that the silence from officials was getting harder and harder to justify. It was a deafening silence.
It's the question we should all be asking, right? You've got all these things happening, clear signs of retaliation, so why on earth was there no formal warning? Well, the official reason is almost unbelievable. According to a notice on the DHS website itself, the NTAS site wasn't being actively managed because of a government shutdown. A lapse in federal funding meant that a key national security function was basically offline. And in that official vacuum, other people stepped in. Some security analysts started publishing their own tactical survival checklists for regular people. They were giving advice on bulk buying food, storing extra fuel, and making offline backups of your data. Essentially, they were telling citizens, hey, you're on your own here.
So that's the story. We go from a missile strike 6,000 miles away, all the way to the gas pump in your town, to cyber threats against your local infrastructure, and to violence in American cities. It really shows that the concept of a home front isn't some old-timey idea from history books. It's here. It's now. And it makes you wonder, if the ripples can travel that far, that fast, what does security even mean in a world as connected as ours?